If you're a real estate agent and you've been thinking about using probate or going after probate sellers or perhaps working with folks inheriting properties, this is going to be a really helpful conversation for you because I'm here with Michelle Bellisari, Michelle B from Boca Raton. We're going to be talking about probate, and we're going to talk about clients who've inherited properties, and we're going to talk also about her journey to real. So, Michelle, thanks for hopping on and chatting.
My pleasure. Happy day to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like a beautiful Boca Raton kind of
typical Boca day. There you go.
Nice. This is typical Maryland day inside because it's not so great outside. So let's just get a little bit of context first before we dive into probate and inherited properties. Who are you? Have you been in real estate for a little while? How'd you get into probate?
Florida's and, walks in the rain.
That's right.
So, hi guys, I'm Michelle Bellisari, #SoBoca. I have been in real estate since 2003, been through some really interesting markets over the years. And I'm a mom of 2 adult children, Kylie and Allie, and married for 34 years to Captain Andy. He's a charter boat captain here in Boca Raton. We have a boat called Bellisari. I started off in real estate like everybody else did, very generalized. And after the housing market crash of 2008, I started to focus on some listing niches, in particular probate real estate and seniors that were needing to downsize due to medical issues, life issues, etc. And over the years, I've really honed in on the fact that the life cycle niches work really well no matter what goes on in the economy, including having pandemics, natural disasters and whatnot. There are certain niches that they have to sell. They're required to sell. And a lot of times that's divorce, downsizing, and death. And so you're really a helper, as Mr. Rogers says, with those particular types of properties, and a lot of hand holding. They're not necessarily for everyone, but I'm a big advocate. I say I am niche, queen. And I really encourage all agents to have some sort of niche, whether it's pickleball, whether it's fishing, whether it's something that you just are very passionate about, so that you get in the same circles and in the same rooms with the people, and you can have those conversations, right? I'm in my 21st year of real estate. Oh my God.
Let me ask you this. So 21st year, but at what point did you start getting into probate?
2012.
How did that work? Did they just kind of fall in?
Yeah. So what happened for me was I actually went to a Mike Ferry Superstar event for younger agents out there. Mike is Tom's dad. And Mike Ferry had a great event called the Superstar event. It was down in South Beach in Miami, which is about an hour south of me. I'm in South Florida. So Boca is in between Fort Lauderdale and West Palm, with Miami just being a little south of Fort Lauderdale. So I went down to that because, the market had crashed. Things were not good for a lot of people. Agents and the consumer were foreclosed situations, short sale situations. My own home was in pre-foreclosure at the time. My husband had an accident in 2010, and it was just like one of those bumps in the road where it just sucked, And so one of the things that I did is I went to this conference. Somebody gave me a free ticket, and I drove back and forth, and I realized that I really needed to hone into the listing side of things and figure out a niche that I could relate to. And my parents both passed away at 57 and 61 when I was in my late 20s and very early 30s. And we had to deal with some probate stuff with both of them. And we were young, like I'm the oldest. So when my dad died, I was like 28. My brother was like 27. My sister's 6 years younger. It wasn't fun. And then, 7 years later, my mom died. And here we go again. And so one of the things that I took away from it was not understanding some of the process and whatnot. And I thought, I'm a helper. My previous career was pharmaceutical sales, and was used to dealing with doctors and things like that. So I felt like it was a good fit for me to be the helper, help people move through a different chapter at one of the most horrifyingly difficult times, because grief is just a brain suck and just makes you tired and you don't want to do anything. And that's how I started getting into it. And I started to evolve I hired my daughter, and I said, at the time, I said, can you make a list of attorneys for me? And I started networking. I started getting out there. You guys have got to get out from behind the damn computer. Seriously. Like, I'm an old ass agent, but I'm telling you right now, you have to go network. You have to get out and go to things in your city and community. So get involved with nonprofits that are tied into whatever niche you're doing. So I do stuff when it comes up with hospice. I've had tables and whatnot for the Alzheimer's Association. I leverage my social media. I put things out there on social media about these types of niches. But ultimately, I started growing this, sphere of influence of people that were in those circles and getting to know them and telling them, here's what I know how to do. Because I was cleaning houses when the Great Recession happened and the housing market crashed. And so I learned how to clean out a house really quickly. And what does it take? And that's some of the stumbling blocks for the sellers. They're like, I can't do anything. I don't know how to get this house cleaned out. And I'm like, I do. I know how to get the house cleaned out for you. And here's how we can hire someone. And this is how you can do this. And by the way, you don't have to come down to Florida to do your closing. It can be a mail away, and all these things that people worry about, but they never talk about. So that basically was how I started getting into probate, and flash forward, 12 years later, I'm still doing it. I'm dealing with a trust listing right now, which is part of probate because sometimes people pass away, and thank God, in this case, they have a trust. I have something under contract for a senior that made a move to independent living. And that's it's a nice percentage of my business. But I will say the other side of the coin is if you're working with buyers right now, in my humble opinion, the relocation buyer is the go-to buyer because they have to, I always go, the have to, must do, need to, they're moving. So get together with your economic development groups in your city, in your county, find out who's got companies moving into your communities and try and network with those companies where they are currently, especially if they're bringing people into the area, right? So
that, and I love what you're saying about probate, is that there's a big knowledge gap between the client and yourself, because in the case of probate, this is not something that they've likely done before. This is not something that is very simple. And same with someone who's coming from far out of the area, they don't know anything about, South Florida. They don't know the differences between South and North Beach and, much less for, any of those places that you have. And they're very distinct. So with that,
which is why I started my So Boca brand.
Yeah.
In 2018, I started that as a fun thing, but then I realized it was actually a way for me to generate information for the consumer about this area. And then I get leads from it.
So one of the things that I picked up on in your story was that you're in pre-foreclosure.
Yeah.
You go to a Tom Ferry event, Michael Ferry event, then at that point discover that probate is something that you might want to do. You have these different personal events in your life that gets you familiarized, experientially with that process. Was probate something that you were able to kind of start working on right away that got you out of that situation? And if it did, how many deals were you able to do through probate over the course of the next 1 or 2 years? Or
I don't even remember. It's been kind of a while. I will tell you, I got my house out of foreclosure though.
Yeah.
In 2014 because I focused on a niche, and it layered into the second niche, which was the seniors. So working with sellers that needed to sell, that were motivated to sell, that was how I got my house out of foreclosure, hands down, 100%.
So number one, what did you focus on? What specifically did you do to go about getting those types of clients?
Well, again, I started with the attorneys. That to me was the low-hanging fruit, is get to know the probate and estate attorneys and whatnot. And that's what I did. I went to luncheons. They have, usually in your community, they have a bar association luncheon. Start going to that once a month. Go to the estate groups if they will let guests come. Go to those very specific networking groups and then start your own networking group. And that's what I ended up doing. So by 2014, 15, I started my own networking group. I was the only realtor. And who did I invite? The attorneys, the senior living marketing people, anybody to do with those two niches. And I kind of just owned it, had my lender sponsor, usually had a hotel or restaurant sponsor, a little food and one free drink kind of thing, and off to the races. I did that for a couple of years, and that really solidified some things with me. One of the listings I have right now that's under contract is one of my elder law attorneys. It's his father-in-law. And then also making sure that when you have those closings, Jonathan, that you're, especially now with Google, having to Google my business and getting those 5-star reviews that are keyworded about the specifics to where you live and what you did. If it's a probate, inherited property, senior, whatever, and getting those reviews out there so people can see what we do.
Yeah, I like that, because if people are searching in Google, which is typically where they're going to go about doing that, probate real estate agent, probate, like what do you
Yeah.
do if it's that where the third is happening? If your Google reviews are speaking to that specifically, then you're definitely going to rise quickly on the list. That's a very
Yeah.
powerful strategy
And
right there.
again, this might not be for you or someone else, but if you take the same blueprint and go, okay, so like I wrote a whole thing about pickleball. I was actually going to get really involved with it, and then I tore my hamstring. Super Bowl weekend, skateboarding with my youngest daughter. Don't even ask. I mean, I used to skateboard, but it was not the first time, second or third time. It was on somebody else's board, and I fell. Anyway, so that sidelined my pickleball career. But
Damn.
I had already written a blog post, and I had done an interview with one of the big pickleball people here. So I've already kind of planted some seeds about that. So because every community is converting their tennis courts or some of their courts into pickleball. If you play pickleball or you want to learn how to pickleball, that could be a good niche for you to get into in your area, right? That's could be on the buy side, could be on the sell side. I'm really a fan though of the life cycle stuff. So again, I'll always go back to divorce, downsizing, and death. You could throw in weddings, but again, that's typically going to be on the buy side.
Right. I think that for folks who are in a situation where they're strapped on in terms of cash and maybe are new to probate and they just kind of like want to get their feet wet, they'd probably be a little bit reticent to start their own networking opportunity. And they'd probably be more likely to do what you first suggested, which is go to the bar association meetups, go to the different networking events that are already present. So with that being said, was there something in particular that you had as a goal when you went to those meetings? Did you have in mind, okay, I want to provide value to somebody, or were you just...
So one of the things that I will share, first of all, my networking events, very little out of pocket. I got it sponsored. So it really doesn't cost anything but time. I have an email newsletter going out today. So if anybody wants to jump on that, I send it out once a week, and it's called Harnessing the Power of. And this week it's called Harnessing the Power of Free. And all the free things that we as agents can do to market ourselves. Because right now it's a challenging time for agents. They're cutting back on marketing, and probably not a good idea to cut back on marketing, but maybe transition your marketing into something that's not quite as expensive, right? But one of the things I will say is you don't have to spend a lot of money to do these things. Now, when I go to networking events, and thank God for ChatGPT. So here's an exercise for anybody watching this. Put a prompt into ChatGPT that says something to the effect, I'm attending a networking event. I am a real estate agent. I am focusing on networking with attorneys and business owners that focus on probate. I would like to have 3 questions I can ask someone that I'm networking with versus talking about myself. And that way, because what happens is you're, hey, I'm Michelle B. Oh yeah, I've been with so-and-so company forever, and this is what I do, blah, 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 blah. But you really need to have some key questions like, so tell me, what made you choose probate real estate over personal injury?
Yeah.
Tell me how you ended up moving to wherever you are. What college did you go to? You might find some alignment. Like I'm a Florida Gator. I'm a big Miami Dolphins fan. Both my brother-in-laws played for Ohio State. So bink, bink, bink. Sports is an equalizer, in my opinion. Go Florida Panthers right now. Not big on the baseball, but football and some of the other sports I like. So at any given time during football season, I'm putting a lot of stuff out there. Well, you'd be surprised at who also may be an alumni of your college or some sort of sports is a great equalizer. It makes good content too, by the way. So go to ChatGPT and put together some teeny tiny scripts that will help you ask questions, probing questions versus you barfing all over somebody about how great you are, right?
Yeah. And it seems like those questions are meant and intended to get to know that person a little bit more and also basically establish connections, personal connections or any kind of connections with the person that you're speaking with.
And the other thing is, here's an example, in my opinion, of what not to do right now. The consumer might be reading stuff about the NAR lawsuit, but why are you as an agent posting anything on that on your social media? Seriously. Like, there's no finality to it. It's talk, 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 talk. I think agents post because they don't know what else to say and it's trendy and maybe they'll get some views from it. But is that really what you want out there? Or do you really want stuff out there that can help the consumer right now? So think about your content strategy for the next 30 days on what you want to do. Again, ChatGPT is great for that. You can go in there and do a whole content calendar. If you want to look at real estate niches, you can follow me at the Michelle B. Send me a DM that says niches. I'll send you my 50 fabulous real estate niches you probably don't even know about. It's free.
Basically is it puts a finger on the fact that you always, whenever you're making content or whenever you're speaking to somebody, you have to ask the question, what are they interested to know?
Yeah.
What are they interested to hear? Because a lot of agents, they're making NAR content because they're being served NAR content by other agents who are other agents as their audience. And so because they're interested in it, they think other people are interested in it.
But I know. And the thing of it is, it's so fluid right now that if you put something out there, it could change tomorrow. So I'm not saying much about it right now in a listing, or I'm with a buyer. That's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. Then, we have our disclosures and we, go through like, well, this is what's going on and da, 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 da. So I'm following the line of my brokerage at Real about how to handle that.
Sure. So with that being in mind, when you're talking to an attorney, what are some of the things that you think that they want to know about an agent when considering whether or not they're going to start sending them?
I think one of the most important things is that you're compassionate because their client is going through a very difficult time in most cases. Very rare that I've had somebody not be going through such a difficult time, right? So I think that, and being knowledgeable about what's going on in the market and what are your resources and how can you help that client get the house in order? How are you having that conversation with them? So many times, especially with probate, the houses have a deferred maintenance. They may be cluttered. Could be a hoarding situation. Could be that somebody hasn't lived there in a while. Maybe they were sick for a long time. Maybe they were with family or friends. Maybe they were at hospice, whatever it is. And so you need to be able to assure an attorney that you can assist with the moving pieces. Now, something that I will say is we are licensed to sell real estate. We're not licensed to move items. We're not licensed to fix a leak. We're not licensed to mow a lawn. Came up on something today where somebody said they helped a seller, and it wasn't probate, but just in general move. My response was, and this is a closed group of people, and I highly respect all of them in the group. And I said, I will tell you right now that my old broker said to me at one point, because I was dealing with probate, so they do need a lot of hand-holding and things need to be done. Be very careful about what you're doing, and then it falls under your license. And I was like, oh, so do I have a good clean out guy? Do I have a good mover? Do I have a good plumber? Do I have an electrician? Like, you need to have all these people say, here you go. And by the way, make sure that you look at some other people. I cannot guarantee the work, because when you're working with these kind of niches, you do have a soft heart and you want to, but you have to also think of the litigiousness of how things can go. And so the deferred maintenance, I think, is the biggest piece. And so getting a home to market can be a little more challenging. Now, if you're lucky like I am and you have coming soon in your market, that's a beautiful thing.
Why is that?
Well, because you can take up to 21 days here in our market to get a house ready and just have it as coming soon in the MLS.
I see. So you'll post basically as many photos as they'll let you, have it in coming soon, get an extra
photos. It just depends on the condition of the house. So one photo is fine. They only require one. It just depends on the marketing strategy, and everybody's different about how they do the coming soon. In most cases, I usually have a few photos. Usually it's around the area until the interiors are done. I have definitely taken a few photos on my cell phone, sent it over to Box Brownie, have them zhuzh it. But for the most part, I always have professional photos and videos done, depending on the property.
But yeah, you buy an extra 21 days, of exposure.
Well, tease, up to, you can't show it. The moment you go, I'm going to show it's got to be active.
Yeah.
Follow those rules.
What would you say are the top 5 resources, or if you have more, say more, but at least top 5 resources that an agent should have in place before they decide to start pursuing probate clients?
Well, the first thing is, and I do teach and coach this, I have a course called the Probate Real Estate Bootcamp. It is a learn as you go, but very comprehensive. And understanding, you really need to understand what probate is and things about it in your own state. What I teach agents is how to fish. So I teach them how to find probate leads and then work with trying to convert them and working with the attorneys as well. So I think you have to know that it's something that you want to do. It's not transactional. So I think that in itself, and really understand how to get a house put together and cleaned out, and understanding the court process. Like, it can be a longer process. You may be dealing with multiple personal representatives, or if in your state might be executors. You might be dealing with a difficult attorney. You might be dealing with a lot of moving pieces with heirs and stuff. So I think knowing before you go into it is very important. And that's what I teach. And I've done coaching in our Real Broker Academy. They had a private coaching program back in 2022. So I was doing probate in there for agents. So there is a fee to it, but I like to really make sure that agents are knowledgeable about this particular niche. So
that makes sense. Competence leads to confidence. And I think that that's, for myself, one of the reasons for why I wouldn't necessarily be super keen on taking on probate listings, because I've never done that before. My parents, thank God, are still here. And I'm 32 years old. A lot of my clientele.
Yeah, you're the same age as my daughters, Kylie and Allie. Yeah, it's probably not. Yeah. For you, it's like, not really my thing. Yeah. But I get that. And then, but for someone who's maybe in the business for a while, and, there's a sandwich generation, there's a lot of agents out there that are taking care of their parents or a parent right now too, and so you see this side of Alzheimer's and things like that. So, but here's the thing. The sexy side of real estate is like luxury condo, new construction, and $1 million homes and stuff like that, which you can do with these other niches. But I totally get where you're coming from. It's like, not quite there yet, but maybe in 10 years, maybe it's something I want to revisit down the road, Yeah.
Well, I mean, I say that, but at the same time, I just got a client who has a $2 million horse farm, basically, that the father had just passed, and now the executor of the estate, I'm working to get that listing. So at the same time, who knows, maybe I'll get into your Real Academy course.
Well, one of the things you might want to do is partner up with somebody who already has a little more experience. It's better to bring the expertise and not just, like a lot of agents do this and maybe not get the listing, versus bringing someone who says, oh yeah, this person works with probate, understands horse farms. Horse farms are very specific. That's a niche right there in itself. Ranches. I mean, very specific. I mean, you're talking land, you're talking stables, you're talking drone of everything, septic, stuff I don't do.
Basically, the takeaway I would say is get educated, buy a course, get a mentor, get somebody in there who's done it before. And then with that equipment, then you can start going out and more confidently speaking to some of the other lawyers. And I think that probably answers my next question, which was going to be, what about the people who hear this and the objection in their mind is, man, well, I don't know if I want to approach other lawyers and attorneys about this, because they probably already got a realtor. They probably already got 5-10 realtors who they're working with who focus on this.
Right. You know what? Maybe they're ready for a new agent. Not every agent is a good fit for every client. Not every listing is a great listing to have, by the way. Seriously, like, I just went through something that was just like horrendous. And, it's made me, even at this stage of my career, go, oof, I've got a few more questions I'm asking on some of the referrals that I'm getting. There's a difference between a lead and a referral, by the way. And let me say this right up front. Don't send me your damn leads. Like, if it's a referral, do your background, do your due diligence, and know a little bit about who you're referring or why they're selling. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know that, then it's not a referral, it's a lead.
And that's a great distinction, because I feel like a lot of probably the vast majority of agents are not hard-nosed salespeople, right? No. I came from like the roofing world. So we would knock on doors.
You roofers.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, exactly. We're the ones who are running up your homeowners and
screwing us right now.
I'm not there anymore. I've converted.
Thank God.
Man, That's fine. But with that being said, leads versus referrals, big difference. And if you're an agent who isn't a hard-nosed salesperson, go after those referrals. Go after the business in which
get known for being a good referral partner.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a good referral partner. So the people that have referred me, especially at Real, I'll get a testimonial from them.
Yeah.
We've closed because I'm a good referral partner. I keep them in the loop just enough. I don't want you involved in the transaction, by the way. You don't need to be involved unless it's a family situation. And I come to you and say, hey, I need you to do this, which I've had to do. That's different, but I'll keep you in the loop. I don't know. It's an interesting time because what I've seen over the years is people say, oh, I have a referral for you. And it's a purchased lead and they don't know anything about that. Leads has a million people.
Now, one other question I have about attorneys, if those are your main referral partners, like how do you know which attorneys to network with? I mean,
I think you just start with networking and you'll get a connection with people and know if they're open to working with you. And maybe you do an event with them. Maybe you do a panel with them. Maybe you do an interview with them. Put out the olive branch and say, hey, I have a show and I'd love to interview you for the people that watch what I'm doing here about probate and getting your estate plan together. There you go.
sure.
Who's going to
And I
turn
guess,
down that?
yeah. And if you were to make a short list, like terms to Google, basically, would it be like probate attorney?
Yeah,
Like,
you can do that. You can do that. Estate and trust, probate attorneys. Yeah, just Google it.
okay.
Yep. I have all of that in my course too.
And by the way, I'll be sure to link all of Michelle's different links and courses in the description. So
yeah, I've got lots of freebies.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about Real Academy is that there's lots of courses and calls that folks who are not even part of Real, they can jump on and all this stuff. So I'll throw that in the description as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, actually, I do have one more question about the attorneys and probate. And then what I'd like to do is transition into talking a little bit more about just your journey as of
no
now.
problem.
And that is when you're working with, let's say, a single probate attorney, how many deals can you typically expect to get from a single?
It depends. It depends. I mean, it usually is over a period of time. So if you have 5 probate attorneys and you get 5 referrals, say from each attorney a year, that's 15 referrals. I mean, it just depends on how hard you're working it. It's like you can't get one and then not massage the situation, It's like anything. You got to stay in touch. You got to make sure you're doing nice things. You could buy a table at an event that's relevant. Like I said, hospice, Alzheimer's and things like that. Invite some attorneys to be at your table. You could split that sponsorship with your lender. Like you don't have to underwrite everything. You can get things sponsored. So hopefully all of this helps your folks have a better understanding of some of the things that they can do that don't have to cost them a lot of money. I've been doing this 21 years. I mean, over my 21 years, I have sold millions and millions and millions of probate properties.
You're going into your 21st year in real estate. So I imagine you've probably seen a lot of different brokerages. You've probably been around the block. And so because of that, you've got some experience and some perspective that you could share with some other folks about what has led to each one of your different changes. If you don't mind, let's kind of start all the way from the beginning. What was the first brokerage that you went to and why did you choose that?
I've been at a few brokerages. I started off with Coldwell Banker, which a lot of the agents did back in the day. And I've been to some of the popular ones. And I was with Remax for almost 10 years. And in 2021, I made the transition over to Real Broker. I'd been looking at cloud-based brokerages for a number of reasons, mainly because I like the multiple streams of income that we can tap into. Real kind of floated by me and I went, oh, let me take a look at this. And so I started looking at the numbers and looking at my personality and coming off of COVID. I'm very comfortable not going into an office all the time. And I love the collaborative spirit and the culture that seemed to be bubbling up. I was like under 2,000 agents when I came on. And I've just loved the whole process of what I'm seeing, where we're going, the direction, our leadership, and all of the options available to agents. And the bottom line is that we do focus on production at Real. We don't focus on recruiting. Most of the people that are coming to me, they see what I'm doing. They see some of the videos that I'm doing when I'm talking about Real and the benefits of coming to a company like Real. And it can really be like life-changing.
If you don't mind me asking just a little bit more of a granular question, you were at Remax, right?
Yeah.
Or just prior to Real. And in my area, Remax is super popular. I think they're the 2 brokerage in the area. And a lot of folks like the fact that I think they're like 95-5 splits now. I think
they have a great split. They also have
What were the things that you liked the most about Remax? And we'll just start there for
Well,
now.
Remax was a great ride for me. I went to Remax at a very difficult time in my personal life and during the housing market rebound. And I had a good broker. It was just a really good situation. And as we moved into 2019, I went to my first R4 conference and just was like, oh, this is great. And then in 2020, I was in a Remax socialite. So I was one of 7 people chosen to do social media at the conference and gearing up to the conference about Remax. It was fantastic. But COVID came and I had been looking hard at doing something different. At that point, change is inevitable for many of us. I had looked at going over to EXP. I missed the opportunity to join EXP a few times, which I always kicked myself over that. And I said, if another opportunity comes along that is similar to the opportunity for future wealth building and growth, I would really look hard at it. And within a week of me thinking, I'm going to go over to EXP, Real came floating by me, literally. And I went, I like where they are. It's a startup. I'd be right on the ground floor, lots of growth opportunity. I don't need an office. I like the split because we have no monthly fees. So 85.15, it didn't matter. I was at 95.5 because I had other fees and whatnot. I left on great terms, by the way, at Remax. I'm going to always say great things about that company. All the companies I've been at have been good. I just changed to what I needed and what I was looking for.
I guess what I'm wondering is what specifically had changed about your situation or your values or what you were trying to achieve.
It was
that
more
made you
about
more interested in an EXP,
it was more about the opportunity, having multiple streams of income. I'm a blogger.
Is it because you didn't want to do real estate much, or are
No,
we
it was adding real estate. The whole point of coming to a cloud-based brokerage like Real is adding to what I already have. Like when I talk to people about doing niches, I never tell people don't do what you're doing and do this. I'm like, this is an addition to, this is another pillar. So to me, having multiple pillars to choose from, especially during a little bit of an uncertain time and knowing what I knew from what I missed out on before, I was like, no, I'm going to jump on this. This is the way I want to go. This is the future of real estate, literally future of real estate.
Well, I mean, I totally agree about that. And I think that that's a great frame to think of it or to view the opportunity by, is because a lot of times we get focused on one thing or another, right? We think, okay, probate's it. This is going to be the thing. And for me, it's like, okay, social media, going after the first time home buyers or going after the folks that are relocating to my area because of the naval base nearby.
Right.
We sometimes think, okay, this is it. But then actually my social media has gotten like so big in my local area that I charge the local businesses to be on my channel. So when I go to interview somebody, it's $500. When I mention your business on my weekend updates or whatever, that's $250.
Yeah.
And so people are like, oh my gosh, I'm making like, $4,000 or $5,000 a month just from my social media. And that's in addition to my real estate. And it's not because I'm like trying to be a local influencer. It's just like, well, no, I have this opportunity. I'm not going to leave money on the table. And I guess that's how you're viewing the revenue share.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think we're entrepreneurs, not just real estate agents. And I think when agents look at it that way, they're more open to having the streams of income coming in and working on that part of it. And that's what I like about it. Again, I'm older than you are. I've got kids your age. And so my narrative is a little different than maybe your narrative. I too have social media and a blog and whatnot. And I do brand collaborations and things like that, on a pretty regular basis. I feel like there was a gap in the market and Real Broker has filled that gap, from the collaboration and the culture piece of it to what we're offering with Willable Rev Share, retirement Rev Share. You can tap into insurance, health insurance through a third-party broker. You can look at, okay, I want to plan my next 5 years. We have an instrument called the Wealth Plan. You can jump into that and crunch your numbers and see, okay, if I do the stock purchase plan and I participate in revenue share and I'm selling real estate, what does that look like, this year, next year, for 5 years? I mean, these are the pieces of the pie that really work. Like earlier this year, I went to Sharon Travaza's 2 buyer masteries in Nashville, in Dallas. Now, I'm not working a lot on the buyer side, but I went to one network, to anything that Sharon does, I'm in. He's brilliant and his take is so vastly different than anything I've ever listened to in my career. And I went to Rep B. So I went to Macy and Katie Day's event in Houston. So my first and second quarters were really chunked into agent to agent referrals and networking within Real and also outside of Real, but also learning and strategizing. I think that's the one thing that if anybody's looking at coming to a new brokerage, they need to really look hard at what we are doing here and how we do it and helping each other out. Work hard, be kind is truly how we roll at Real Broker. And I'm really proud to be affiliated with what we're doing, including a nonprofit that they started last year. I mean, there's so many things, and not to mention our
Michelle, I got to cut you off because I think that you've hit a bunch of different great topics, and I think that probably what we could do is look at each one of those in turn. So the first thing that you talked about, as I heard it anyway, was community and culture.
Yeah.
We can talk about the different streams of income that you like the most. There's like 8 or 9, but we'll talk about maybe your top 3.
So many.
And then we can talk about like specifically the tools that you're mentioning. So let's start first with like culture and community. How is culture different from Remax to Real? Let's just kind of start there.
Well, I think we have an online community. So our workplace is very functional and you can jump on any time of the day. I'm not going to compare Remax to, because I don't know what Remax has in play anymore because I haven't been there for over 4 years. I can just say, speaking at Real, we have our online community, and at any day or time, you can jump in and talk about a problem. You can offer a solution. You can share. We have Real Academy, I think over 700 hours a month of training by some of the top agents for free. I mean, literally, that's what I love about the cloud base is that Facebook, you're never really alone.
Actually, I mean, Workplace is made by Facebook, and I, for instance, made a post in there just a few days ago, and like within 24 hours, I had 15 agents all commenting and helping me out. And yeah, that's one of the things that I think is unique about Real versus a lot of other brick and mortar businesses, which is that we have that infrastructure in place where it's not the cooler community. It's not like the cooler culture where like we're all kind of like going in and getting our morning coffee together. But like when we need each other, and that's
it's really good.
We share our
problem solving.
Yeah, we solve the problems. So that's cool. That's a little bit of the community and I suppose the culture as well. Is there anything else that you want to say about that before we talk about some of the rev share or the other streams of income opportunities?
No, not really. I mean, I just think it all comes together. It's all part of a puzzle and you can tap into all of it or none of it or some of it.
Yeah, and I think that you had mentioned work hard, be kind.
Yeah.
I think that it does actually matter quite a lot that you have other people that you share values with, right? Yeah. I mean, if you and I were on the other side of the transaction table and I know that you have the same values as me, I can trust that this little thing, this little issue is probably not going to derail the deal. It's probably not going to put everybody, a fit or whatever, because like, okay, we've got the same goals and we're moving in the same direction. And I feel like that's what we have at Real, I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the multiple streams of income. So there's like 8 or 9, but like, let's talk about your top 3. What do you think those would be?
Well, I'd say right now my 2 are the stock purchase plan and revenue share that I participate in that I highly recommend. It's just one of those situations where you have an opportunity to share about Real, and people do come to us and talk about Real. And when they move over, they're part of your community. And I love that. And we have co-sponsoring at Real, which is great. So if somebody wants to come over and they're thinking, I'd like to maybe talk to this person and this person, we welcome that. And that's been a really great piece for me this year in particular. Just co-sponsoring some different agents, especially agents that are here in Florida. That's been great. So I think the combination of the two is just something that, you're kind of tucking away and, but the opportunity is there. And I think there's discussions on why that makes really good sense for agents. It's kind of like a little bit of a forced savings kind of thing. So those are the 2 that I can think of that I really like.
Yeah, a little earlier we were talking and you had mentioned that really your attraction or your efforts in sharing what Real has to offer truthfully is not very robust, right? I mean, it's not like you're going out there and making all these courses about, hey, here's all the benefits of Real and, going hard and cold calling agents and being like, hey, this is why you got to.
It's not what we do at Real. Yeah.
you're just kind of sharing about, hey, this is what's going on. And
I just share the things that I like, but more so people see what we're doing as a company overall. They see that we just opened a luxury division. They see the moving pieces that we have, and that is very attractive to different agents. And you can see that with, the fact that we started pro teams and private label. These are all important pieces to different types of agents, teams, and boutique brokerages. And we welcome that.
And I think that's really relieving for a lot of agents to hear, because they're like, hey, I would like to be compensated in some way for speaking well about the brokerage that I represent and for being an advocate and basically a guide to what people can expect.
Well, I think it's more about the opportunity. I mean, if you're going to speak, no matter what brokerage I've been at, I've had pretty good ride with them. So I always speak well. I feel it's more about a business opportunity. And I'm just going to let my plane kind of land there, because you can tap into it, but you don't have to. If you just want to do production, that's fine. You don't have to do any of it. But I'm tapping into it.
Same for myself. But I guess what I was driving at was, I think it should be relieving for people to hear that you can take advantage of the opportunity without changing really anything that you're doing, if that's what you want to do. And so let's talk about the stock purchase program, because that's definitely going to be different from what people can expect at a franchise brokerage like RE/MAX or other brick and mortar.
So I am not a stockbroker. I'm not a financial person. All I can say is I'm tapping into the stock purchase program. Every time I have a closing, I'm buying some stock, and that's been pretty cool. There's some opportunities where there's certain milestones where I've been gifted stock based on agents coming over, having their first transaction, things like that. So again, there's opportunities. I love that, and didn't have that at my other brokerages. I don't know what they're doing now.
If you don't mind me asking, have you been able to hit Elite Agent?
Here's the thing. That isn't on everybody's radar. Now, I'm starting to think about it this year. And the reason I say this is because we all have different things going on in our world, right? So for example, I came on in 2021, kind of in the height of the pandemic. I had actually been pretty sick with COVID in 2020. I was dealing with some long haul stuff from COVID. 2022, my daughter got married. So I actually have this year where I'm like, I have 8 months before I have to do my anniversary. Should I maybe look at going after Elite? I have not done that. But the nice thing is, if you do decide to go after Elite and you want to talk about it, we can definitely send you some information about that, because if you hit Elite, you get a really nice stock reward. It all has to vest. It's all that kind of stuff. It's pretty sweet. And the people that I know who've done it, I'm really impressed with the fact that they've done it. So I'm going to be tapping into some of them and say, how can I do this year? I don't know if it'll happen though.
Well, I think you're setting yourself up well for it, because there's two parts, Elite Agent awards. You've got the production award and you've got the control award. So one of the things, just for folks who are interested in knowing, but the production award means that you're hitting certain benchmarks and you're going to get a big stock award, I believe $8,000 if you were to get that. Maybe, is it more? Is it? I think it's like 16.
I think it's 16 and then 8 if you get the Cultural Award. That's not a given.
That's right. So $16,000 if you hit those production limits or hit those production metrics. And then the Cultural Award basically entails you giving back either to the real community or giving back to your local community or something of that sort. And so typically that comes in the form of teaching, like Michelle is, in the form of the Real Academy, offering some guidance about, hey, here's how you do better with probate. Here's how you do better with, people who've inherited properties. So I think that's how you're setting yourself up well for it, because you've already got the cultural.
I don't know if I have the energy for it, but we'll see what happens. All I know is I wrote it down. I was like, I think I need to talk to some people about this and see what I can do to do this. It might involve outbound referrals plus what I'm doing. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I floated past me like a week ago. I was like, I should really look into this. Anyways, I hope all this kind of helps. And if anybody has any questions about Real Broker, you can certainly talk to Jonathan and myself about it. Obviously, I'm very happy. I've been here going into my 4th year, which means I don't know all the details off the top of my head, but I qualify for retirement revenue. So there you go.
The reason why I brought up the Elite Agent was because in the stock awards that you'll get in hitting the production award and the cultural award, you can actually make all your fees basically negated. So your time at Reel would be basically free for that year, given how much you would be paid in stock by Reel. I'll just say this again, Michelle, thank you so much for sharing what you did about probate, about how people can network with attorneys in their area, how they niche down and use it as a way to go about getting clients that are not necessarily leads, but are referrals and are basically going to come in way stronger. And then also sharing about your journey from Caldwell Banker and Remax to Reel. I think you offer a lot of great insight because of your experience and because I can see that you're not only thinking really deeply about this, but you're also super enmeshed in the community at Reel, teaching at the academy, providing the courses, which, by the way, again, in the description below. And if you want to reach out to Michelle and talk more about Reel, especially in the South Florida area, there's going to be a link down below for her contact details too. And same for myself if you want to learn more from me about what Reel has to offer. So again, really 100%. Yep. And now you get all my resources, you get all Michelle's, and that's definitely the benefit of doing some co-sponsorship. But at the same time, with One Reel, we share everything, right? So anything that Michelle puts up on Reel Academy, anything that I might put up, we're sharing that with everybody. So we're not siloed like other cloud-based brokerages are. And I think that's the strength of Reel as well as the one network that we have. Thanks again, Michelle. All right. Take care.